Good morning. Welcome to Entrepreneurial Live Interviews with Connie Fuksa. I have created this interview series because I want to share with you guys some people that are just like you and me who saw something, felt something, saw a pain that needed to be fixed, or wanted to make a change in the way that things are done and decided to take advantage of those things or those concerns or those pain points and wanted to take advantage of it and decided to create something and has done that. And not only have they created something and changed the way that we all do things, but they've also, I wanted to share with you some of the struggles and successes that they go through getting to the point they're at now. And that those struggles and successes happen throughout their entrepreneurial career, in and out, weaved all in and out throughout the whole thing. So I'm bringing you some people that I have met or I've been introduced to. And this gentleman I just recently met, and I'm super excited to share him with you because his story is so interesting and runs through so many different paths. And I know you will all be able to connect with this, but he also has some really great insight about things that entrepreneurs experience and how to make changes in that. So today I want to introduce you to Lee Crumbaugh. Lee, thank you so much for being with me today.
Well, thank you, Connie. I appreciate the opportunity.
I absolutely am thrilled to have you. So Lee, would you just do us a favor and tell us a little bit about you so we know where you come from? Tell us a little bit about where you come from, what you were doing, and what you're doing now, how you got to that point, and what you're actually working on now.
Well, this is a long journey, so hang with me. I'm a Chicago guy, moved to Maryland 4 years ago with my late wife to chase grandchildren. So most of my story is back in Illinois. I learned early on there's one thing that I can do well, and that's write. So I got myself a journalism degree and worked briefly for a major metropolitan newspaper and some other papers. And the managing editor of that major paper asked me what I was going to do after I was in an internship program. And I said, oh, maybe I'll get a master's degree in journalism. And he said, why would you do that?
Unless you have a path and someone says, whoa, why are you going to do that?
Yeah, unless you want to teach, don't do that. Do something useful. Get a law degree or a business degree. So I said, oh, here I've got a guy who was a prisoner of war in World War II, who was one of the leading lights in Chicago, telling me that I better change my career path. So I did. And I went to University of Chicago and got that MBA, only because that only took 2 years and law school would have been 3. But and wound up working for a large financial trade association. I was editor of the magazine for bank executives and wound up talking to an awful lot of people who ran big organizations, in that case, banks, and it amplified what I already was interested in, which was business strategy, because that really captured me in business school. And my father-in-law was a heavy-duty management consultant. He worked with big companies on strategy. So I just got sucked into that world. And after the trade association, I was hired by a big bank that was in trouble, and I ran marketing communications for the bank. But I got involved in helping the bank develop its strategy. So it was like, there's a theme here. And after I decided banking was not something I wanted to do with my life, I entrepreneured. I raised $750,000 and started a publishing company, a magazine publishing company, and did that for a while until we figured out that economic conditions weren't very friendly to what we were doing, and maybe there was a better way to use people's money. So closed the company, and I went into consulting at that point. And my consulting was a lot of it was with publishers for magazine startups, but I also was doing strategy. So I was doing business planning work, but also some strategy work. And again, that's what turned me on. What's your vision of big success, and how can we get you down the road to that vision? Then I got hired away twice into more corporate jobs. I was trying to run a consulting firm. I actually had, people in the firm and an office, but when one of the two big United Ways in Chicago, of which I was on the board, says, we need you to be chief operating officer and to run the marketing operation, I couldn't say no, because that was like helping all kinds of people. But in that role, I helped develop the strategy, and I worked with a number of the 200 some agencies we funded, nonprofits, on their strategy. So again, a theme. I had people with me running accounting and, all the nuts and bolts of the organization, but my heart was in how can we make the best of what we're given as an organization, and the charities we work with, how could they be more effective? When I helped engineer myself out of a job because there were two big United Ways in the Chicago area and it became one, and only one chief operating officer was needed, I happily was going to jump back into consulting and focus on strategy. But through a strange twist of fate, I wound up running the American Fence Association, fence, deck, and railing, the people that manufacture, distribute, and the contractors who install fence, deck, and railing. And that was a great run for about 7 years. And there I was working with our chapters and our member companies in many ways on strategy as well as our organization. So I said, okay, you really are a strategy person. That's what you love to do. So maybe you have two things you can do. You can help people develop and implement strategy, and you can write. Okay. So I hopped back into consulting in 2011. I had already developed my planning system that I work with organizations, that I use working with organizations to help them facilitate and implement strategy. And I realized that there was a big problem, that I could prove by research that had already been done, huge research, that strategic planning works, that organizations that plan and implement their plan, for-profit, nonprofit, they're more successful. If they're for-profit, they're more profitable. If they're nonprofit, they're more effective. I've got the data, and I've given presentations on it. So I said, what do I do about this? Because 70% of strategic plans are not implemented, not fully implemented. And Bain says, last I looked, only 50% of organizations even plan, much less implement. So I jumped into the Association for Strategic Planning, our professional association, because I wanted to hang out with the best planners and strategists that I could find. And I wound up being board chair president of that international organization.
Of course you did.
Right. Which was a great experience. I've got that trade association background and so on. So it was natural for me to do that. And I got certified as a strategist and so on. And I wound up giving presentations about why people don't plan and what we can do about it. But I still wasn't satisfied. I still didn't have the answer. I had all the answers that everybody could give me, but I didn't have the answer until I read two books. Here we are. Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, and The Black Swan by Nicholas Nassim Taleb.
Say the second one again, The Black
Swan by Nicholas. And these are not easy reads, I got to tell you. But the takeaway from those two books are, we get in our own way. We do not know how to make big decisions when they're called for. We don't even necessarily recognize that a big decision is called for. And mental traps, errors, shortcuts, biases I've documented more than 300 of them that are in the literature that are there to be found, get in our way from making good decisions. And that's when a light went on in my head, and I said, Lee, you've got to do more than work with boards of directors and leadership teams. You've got to get up close and personal with individuals, business owners, executives, professionals, and work with them in a coaching mode to teach them how to plan and implement, to help them do it, and to help them make better decisions. And that's when I added coaching. First of all, it was one-on-one coaching, which I still do, but now group coaching to what I do.
Nice.
And so I moved to Maryland 4 years ago, and it took me a few years to get oriented, and my spouse died, and it's okay. But anyway, the last couple of years, I've really been going at the coaching side of things. I still do the consulting side, but coaching has been my big revelation.
Nice. Very nice. Well, let's peel apart a little bit of this, because there's so much information here that's so helpful. First of all, let me say there's an association for everything, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
Everything.
Yes, there is, indeed.
My God, that was interesting. All right, so let's talk about this first. So you go to school to for writing and journalism, and you really know you love this. This is what you want to do, and you go through school, and then you say, all right, I'm going to get my master's journalism, and then pivot. So tell us a little bit about that, because obviously you went away from that writing side of you, but that was something that you thought was really important. So was it just because this professor said, no, this isn't it? Or did you also feel like, because I find a lot of times when we have these conversations that people think that they know what that stronghold is on them, and maybe they just didn't whittle down enough. They didn't get into it enough, or they got thrown into something else and went, oh, wait a minute. And it sort of sounds like that's where you went.
Well, one way to look at the world, or at least what we do in business, there's process and there's content, right? So when I lead strategic planning assignments, I'm bringing a process to bear. The client knows the content of their business. I mean, I'm learning about it, and I can pull in comparables and everything. So when you're a journalist, just a journalist, you're good at process. You can report and create stories. But what the managing editor was saying to me, go learn about something so you can apply your process against the content domain, right? So by getting that MBA in finance and marketing, I then was able to work for 15 years with this banking trade association, being a financial journalist. Because I had the business understanding, and I also have held some marketing roles actually in this.
Yeah, this is interesting. So you got that nudge and said, "Oh, well, maybe I need to take this passion that I have and play in some other water and see how that works." And then you were able to fine tune or hone in on your skills a little bit. Very interesting, because I feel like so often that, particularly young people, are directed to certain things. Oh my gosh, what are you going to go to college for? What are you going to major in? What are you going to, and there's so much thrown at them when they're still trying to figure out who the heck they even are. So I love hearing these stories about how people go after a passion and then, find some other opportunities based on, different paths that they were in. So I wanted to talk for a few minutes about, you've gone different directions, but so you raised money, you opened a consulting business and, a magazine publishing company, because you thought, wow, I'm going back to my writing and this is what I really want to do. But you made a choice to go away from the corporate world, if you will, or the big picture world, and do something on your own. So talk to us a little bit about that, because this is the area that I truly like to dig into, because people see things, people that decide to open a business or start something, they see something. They either see there's a pain that needs to be fixed, or they see something that needs to be done better in their mind of what needs to be done, or they just know that they need to chase something themselves. I was interviewing a lady yesterday who just said, I just can't work in the corporate world. I can't work for somebody else. So you made this choice. Talk to us a little bit about that mindset, how you went from, working at these associations to deciding to raise money and open your own business. That's a big jump.
So I love my trade association work and working with all these members who were running big financial and small financial institutions. I found that really interesting. Then when I got hired away by the big bank, impressive title, best staff of people I ever worked with, I wound up in a bureaucracy where an awful lot of good creative work never went anywhere. Yeah. And I could spend time talking about why that happened. But I decided that for me, I was too creative for that. And it killed me that the good work that my staff and I were doing, a lot of it just never made it out the door. Mm-hmm. And I thought, you know what? I want more control of the creative situation. So that was part of the motivation. Yeah. At the same time, I was living in the fastest growing county in Illinois that now is about almost 1 million people, and then was about 300,000. It was growing rapidly. It was a high-tech hub. It was starting to be a real place. And the county had no voice in the publishing world. So there was a city magazine in Chicago, but there was nothing for the suburbs. So that was the target I was pointed at. I said, and I'd lived in this county all my life, and I'd been involved in politics, and I knew people, and, I knew the lay of the land, and I knew enough people that thought this was a good idea to try, although I said, no, I got to tell you, I don't know if we're going to pull this off or not financially, that they were willing to walk with me. And I got really excited about it. So I did formed a company, raised the money, hired the staff. We operated for a few years, and there was a recession at that point, and we lost low-end advertising to the Chicago Tribune, which brought out a zoned edition for our county, and the high-end stuff just dried up. And we said, are we going to keep investing, or is it better to use our capital some other way? So we shut the door, and that was painful, but okay. Learning experience, fail fast, fail forward, do something else. So
I love it. And part of the reason I bring this up, I know it's a little painful to talk about something that you tried and it didn't work out, that you felt like it was really, you did the research, you really felt like this was, a good plan. But I bring this up for exactly this reason. In this series, we talk about things that are, entrepreneurs having a vision, an idea, a thought to fix something, and then they jump in, and then we talk about struggles, because every single person out there that has tried something has failed something, and I hate to use the word failure because it has such a negative connotation in the world, but it absolutely is not. It's a stepping stone to say, all right, well, if you choose to do that again, then now we know some things that we're going to do a little differently. Or maybe we see that that's not exactly the way to go about this. Maybe there's something else for us. And obviously for you, that next step was a different direction. So for you, then, opening your consulting business, again, you went back out into the United Way, back into the public world, if you will, and worked for other people and said, okay, let me, do this. I'm having a lot of fun with this. And then pivoted and decided to open your consulting. So talk to us a little bit about that again, because, I feel like you've weaved in and out of these different areas. And there's so many people that may be working in the corporate world that want to do something, but are just really afraid to, and just not sure that they have the right idea. And so I like hearing about all these different areas that you have, because you have so much knowledge to offer. So talk a little bit about opening your consulting business now and going in that direction, what those steps were like.
Well, I'm a huge believer in obviously having multiple careers, but having multiple gigs. So all the way along, even when I was in the corporate world, I was doing a little consulting. I was doing some writing assignments. I always had my toe in another body of water. And I knew that I was going to go back into consulting if the corporate world would let me. So in 2008, I grabbed my domain name, I set up my website, I formalized my planning system. So I had 3 years in there when I was spending some evening and weekend time getting the firm reorganized, because it still was out there and I'd done a little consulting work,
Mhm.
even when I was in my corporate role, but kind of saying, here's how I want it to look when I get back out in the consulting world. So, I spent a lot of time thinking about it. It wasn't, oh my God, now I'm not working for the Fence Association. Now what? No, now I'm not working for the fences. Now I'm not running the Fence Association. So let's go. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So from somebody's perspective that is a strategic planner, I think this is such valuable information for anybody out there who maybe has some ideas and wants to do something. But, everybody goes at this a different way. You are a strategic planner. So by nature, you're going to make a plan and then put the pieces in place based on what that plan looks like. So talk to us a little bit about this, because a lot of entrepreneurs just, as you were talking about dipping your toe in the water, they just jump in head first and then backfill later. And I think there's valid points on both sides, but I want to hear your perspective on the and your steps on the strategic planning side of that, because I know that you probably had a very detailed plan going into place, reopening your consulting.
Yes, but as Eisenhower said, I'll just paraphrase, planning is really important, and I'm paraphrasing, but then you have to fight the battle. And you know what? Go fight the battle. But don't lose sight of your plan. What I'm saying is it's really good to think about it and, understand what you're getting into and think about the various dimensions and do what you can to put things in place. But then when you get out there, you got to move. You've got to be agile. You have to make quick decisions. You've got to be resilient and ready to recognize that things aren't going to go right. So, I always say planning's fun, implementation is hard, right? And that's the problem. It's fun to blue sky and dream about things and put things on paper, but then you got to get out there and actually get it done. And that's the hard part. But if you've thought about it enough, it's like you're more prepared, but you're not, oh, I've done A, now I'm going to do B, now I'm going to do C. No, F isn't even on your list and it comes up to A and you've got to do it. Fine. Be adaptive.
It's from the strategic planner here, guys. This is juicy because it's absolutely true. And I mean, anybody who has run a business for any period of time feels this and sees this, but I love this. This is so juicy coming from you because this is what you do. You teach people how to do that planning. And I love that you're talking it because this is real world stuff. So Lee, talk to us about some of the things that maybe people don't know, when they go from the corporate world to, hey, I'm going to open a business. What are some things that people should know that maybe they don't know? Like some of the pieces that they've got to put together that they never thought of. I mean, they're going to do a craft creation business, or they're going to do a paint party business, or they're going to do a wine tasting business, or they're going to do a car cleaning business. What are they know how to clean a car. They know how to strategic plan. They know how to, whatever those pieces are. But talk to us a little bit about that whole business step that we don't really know anything about.
When you're working for the man, when you're working for the man, they have systems, processes, procedures, benefits, what you do when you're in the office, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When you're working for yourself, you have none of that in place. And I really encourage my clients, but anybody who's going to entrepreneur, to think about the process and the system that they're going to install and refine and follow. It's one thing to be able to land that initial set of clients. If you're in the life insurance business, it's always friends and family. That's always easy. It's going beyond that. So you've got to figure out a process for client acquisition or customer acquisition that you can run repeatedly. And that's that hard work. It's fun to dream up how you're going to describe your business and what you're going to do, but then you actually have to get that process going and run it over time, right? And refine it. And if it doesn't work, figure that out quickly.
I
So
love
that's
this.
part of it.
Yeah, the thing is, people don't think about that piece. They think about, and a lot of people, when I ask those kinds of questions, talk about how to build, the things that they had to do, the licenses and the accounting and those kinds of things. But that's not even running the business. That's just all the background stuff. So I love this conversation about the process is so important, thinking about what those processes look like, because ultimately you're going to have somebody that works with you, and how are you going to be able to tell them what you do if you don't put those pieces together?
Well, but even for yourself,
Yeah.
even if you're a solo, you've got to have a process to run. Otherwise, you're just throwing it up against the wall and hoping for luck. And, I love luck when it comes, but I can't plan for it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I cannot plan for luck.
Good one. I like that.
The other thing you do not have is you don't even recognize all the supports that are around you when you're working in a corporate or a bigger business environment.
The man.
The man. When you're out there in the beginning, you are alone, unless you're like a franchise, or there's ways you can not be alone, but you're alone. So you've got to come up with your own framework of trusted advisors, whomever, whatever you need in the way of supports. And that's why I think coaches like us, Connie, are so important, because we can help our clients find those supports. Right?
I love this conversation because, when I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, they talk about mentors, coaches, things like that. But the way that you framed that makes so much sense. And it's, every single successful entrepreneur out there at some point in their career has talked to a coach or worked with a mentor. They're not afraid to talk to people and show vulnerability and say, I just don't understand this. I don't know how to do this. And because they make the widget, they don't create the system. They don't know how to do this, or they don't know how to find good employee. They don't know how to market. They don't know how to use an email system or a CRM or whatever those things are. They don't know how to do that stuff. And so they're vulnerable and ask for questions. So I love how you bring that up, that, creating all of those people that are supports for solopreneurs and entrepreneurs, how important that is, and particularly working with a coach that can give you those directions and push you in the right area for all those pieces that you need. I love that. That's good information. So talk to us a little bit in detail about what you do in your business. What is your business about? I want you to share a little bit about your business so people can understand who Lee is now. What do you do today?
Okay. I have two lines of business, and the first one is the strategy consulting line. So for example, I worked with the management and the board of Maryland Hall in Annapolis, and we developed Maryland Hall's strategic plan, the strategies and the action steps that they need to follow to be successful. Now, unfortunately, the current environment has really knocked that for a loop, but in more normal times, they would be proceeding down a really good road for the future of Maryland Hall because of that. And I work with for-profits, nonprofits. I've worked in more than 50 business segments, industries, helping, leading, facilitating planning. So that's part of my business. But the part that I've really been focused on a lot recently has been the coaching. And here's why. There's a lot of people who this current environment have put into a loop, a bad place. And if nothing else, they're stunned, they're stalled, they're depressed. And with my skill set, I know that I can help them get unstalled, unstuck, and down, hopefully, a better road. So nice. I now have 3 groups that I coach on a monthly basis. Plus, I've got individual entrepreneurs or business people that I coach. But I personally lost some coaching business at the beginning of this, but I've more than filled it in with my group coaching because I designed it to make it as inexpensive as I could and still make out for me. So it would be easy to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm. Nice.
that's Lee right now.
Nice, nice. And your group coaching, what kind of people do you usually look for to include in that group coaching? Just so we know what kind of, what you're looking for in a customer in that group, but also if there's somebody who might want to be interested in getting connected with you in one of those groups, what is that group look like?
Absolutely. Well, I've always said I like to work with people who are successful but want to be more successful.
Very good.
That's just me personally, but basically business owners of smaller businesses, executives in smaller to medium-sized businesses, and professionals.
Excellent. Okay. Very good. Very good. Lee, as we wrap up, could you share with us, like, you have all of this knowledge and all of this experience in entrepreneurship, both inside and outside of the corporate world. And I like to say to people that entrepreneurs aren't just people that open their own business. They're people that work inside of a business and manage teams. They're people that are creative and thought provoking and help others, guide them into paths that are necessary, whether somebody is an entrepreneur starting something of their own, or maybe they've decided to create something within a company that they work for. Those are all the people that we're talking about. And so you have so much of all of this different experience. Give us a piece of wisdom from Lee about one thing that somebody who, wants to jump out on their own or wants to make a big change within the business that they work in. Give us some advice from you about what that should be. One or two pieces of your go-to.
Okay, I'm going to move my head if I can figure out the direction here. This is like a mirror. That's a poster from Ironman Canada. I did 9 of those races and one other Ironman, and I've done 60 marathons, and I'm a running coach, and I have been for a long time. And from that environment applied to the entrepreneurial environment, I firmly believe that we are capable of so much more than we ask of ourselves, and that our limits are mostly self-imposed.
Wow, that is powerful.
So tell yourself, yes, I can. Don't tell yourself, no, I can't. You might be scared, but risk it. The worst that's going to happen is you're going to learn something, as we talked about before. You're going to fall forward if you keep that attitude, and you're going to apply it to the next opportunity. You're going to find the next opportunity.
I love it. That is so powerful. I mean, absolutely true. And as I said earlier, I don't like to talk about failure in the word respect, because I think that is when things don't work out the way we think they should. It isn't failure. It's just learning. We figured out, wow, maybe if I do this a little differently, or maybe I learned that I don't want to do that. Maybe I learned that else. And in your case, a lot of that was true. Lee, if people want to get in touch with you after today, how can they do that?
They can go to Forrest with 2 R's consult.com.
Okay.
Or they can email me. My simple address is leepublish@gmail.com. I used to be a publisher, so that's why that's my address.
Very good. How come Forrest has 2 R's? What is
because
Forrest?
My middle name has 2 R's because my grandfather's first name was Forrest with 2 R's.
Oh, I always think it's interesting to find out how people created the name of their company. Lee, do you have anything going on in your company or in your world? Any specials you want to share with us?
I do.
That you feel really strongly about?
I have sat down with almost 25 business people, owners, entrepreneurs, etc., and gone through a free hour-and-a-half strategy replanning session.
Nice.
And I send out a question. People want to go through this. I give them a questionnaire ahead of time, and then we work through it and try to adapt their strategy and goals to what we're now facing. And wow. I'm happy to do that with anyone. Now, it's no secret about half those people become group coaching clients. That's fine if that's how it works out. But I can tell you that I've gotten rave reviews for just the opportunity for people to sit back and work with me on what am I doing and why am I doing it and what should I be doing.
A little bit of mindset too, getting getting your brain refocused on where it needs to be, particularly in all the situations that's been going on now. That's fantastic, Lee. Thank you. I just can't thank you enough. I had so much good information from you. I've been writing a lot of notes, very powerful information. very thought-provoking in the different areas, because you bring so many different pieces to this conversation, both from the corporate world, the nonprofit world, and how you fine-tuned what you felt to be your special sweet spot. So I think it's fantastic. Guys, if anybody wants to meet Lee or know more information about him, again, he said forrestconsult.com, which is Forrest with 2 R's. We will also put that information in the comments. So if you have any questions or you want to reach out to Lee, it'll be right there. You can click right on there. We'll do that as soon as we're done. The broadcast is live right now, both on Facebook and YouTube, but we will also be doing replays on LinkedIn too. And if you want to make sure you don't miss this, or you want to go back and check it out, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, Connie Fuksa. You can also go to my website, conniefuksa.com. Also on my website, there's lots of other tools and things that can help you navigate through some of the pieces that you might be dealing with about understanding your expertise and some entrepreneurship that we've been talking about. So Lee, I can't thank you enough for your time. It's been fantastic talking to you today.
Well, Connie, I can't thank you so much for the opportunity. You're doing a great service for not just me, but for the other people you interview, and more importantly, for that entrepreneurial community out there. So thank you.
So, well, thank you very much. And hopefully we are making a change all the way around with this great information. So I really appreciate your time. All right, guys, until next time, make sure you're on my website. You'll see some broadcasts. You'll also be checking on Facebook and YouTube. You'll see upcoming broadcasts that are coming up. So make sure you subscribe to that so you don't miss anything. And until next time, thank you for tuning in to Entrepreneurial Live Interviews with Connie Fuksa. It has been my pleasure today to interview Lee Crumbaugh. Thank you again.